Welcome back to my channel, YouTube. Listen, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button because I'm telling you, I'm bringing value every week, Fridays, 12 p.m. I post a new video. If you haven't seen the last 10 videos, or I should say 13 or 14 videos now, please go check them out. If you can't watch them, at least put your earbuds in and listen to them because I'm bringing you straight knowledge. If you are one of my OG subscribers, you might be freaking out right now and say, Chef, where the hell are you? To make a long story short, I have relocated. I'm working on a special project here in Montana. I just purchased a house. There's a workshop that came with the house that I am converting to a studio. What you see behind me is my studio, or the Chef Authorized Studio. Today's episode, I'm actually excited about, but I'll be honest, it's like a double-edged sword. Let me tell you why. Today, we're gonna learn about soups. Now, we've already learned about sauces, we went over stocks, now we're gonna do soups. This is really difficult because there are thousands of different soups. But what I'm doing is I'm gonna give you the Cliff Notes version. We're gonna break it down into 8 categories. Broth soups, consomme, which is derived from a broth soup. Now, consomme, real quick, is basically a clear, flavorful soup. Then it goes into hearty broths. Cream soup. Now, cream soup, I mean one singular ingredient, cream of broccoli, cream of mushroom, things like this type of soup. Pureed soups, where it's vegetables, your liquid, and you puree it. So it doesn't matter what the cut looks like. You could use any flavor, any texture you want because you're gonna puree it at the end. Chowder, or chowders, I should say, one of my favorites. Bisques and chilled soups. Pretty much all soups are derived from these 8 things. What I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna show you one of my top favorite soups that I love making. It's so delicious and I can't wait to show you. Before I do that, I wanna let you know that I'm gonna leave some links down in the description below of some soups I've made in the past that fall under certain categories so we can hit all the bases. Below will be links to my TikTok and I will show you how to clarify a stock or broth. I also have made a broccoli cheddar soup for Doja Cat and a consomme soup, chicken soup, and a chilled gazpacho. All linked down below. Please go check it out. Some guidelines for soup. Some of the things that I've learned as a chef is that me personally, full disclosure, I will never order soup when I go out to a restaurant. I don't like soup that much. I only like soup a certain amount of time. The fact that people can eat soup every day blows my mind. But as a professional chef, I know soup is very popular, so I will always probably have it on my tasting menu or always have it on an a la carte menu. People love soup, there's no getting around it. But I will give you some pro tips. I do not like soup in bain-maries and just holding hot for the whole service. I think that's trash. I think you should heat up the soup a la minute. This means in the moment. I also think you should garnish the soup last second, okay? This is very important. If you have any cream-based soups or any soups that require dairy, I always put in the dairy last. So once the guest orders the soup, then you start heating it up. None of this hold the whole freaking day. No, the reason why is the flavor changes and it's gross. The longer it's held, the more you lose the flavor and the texture. Some general guidelines for soup. Add the vegetables at staggered intervals, according to cooking times. I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they add all the vegetables one shot. But just remember, each vegetable is different. If you have root vegetables or if you have soft vegetables or leafy greens, remember they all have different cooking times. But if you're gonna keep the vegetables that you have in the sauce and then also soups, things take longer than cooked and make sure they're all cut the right size. Come on, make sure you cut it right, okay? And if not, you need to practice. Or if you don't feel comfortable cutting, then you need to practice. Also, stir the soup from time to time throughout the cooking process to prevent starchy ingredients from sticking to the bottom of the pot and for best flavor, texture, and appearance. When the flavor is fully developed and all of the ingredients are tender, the soup may be finished or garnished and served right away, or cooled and refrigerated. Although some soups develop more rounded, mellow flavor if served the day after they are prepared, no soup benefits from hours on the stove. Not only will the flavor be dull and flat, but the nutrition value will greatly diminish as well. Couldn't agree with that more. I think it's really important, as a professional chef, I only heat up soup a la minute, in the moment. A good example, if it's a busy Valentine's Day, then I will heat up 2 to 3 orders at a time, but after 10 minutes, if it's been holding hot for 10 minutes, no, on to the next one. You lose the integrity by hot holding the soup. It's worth it. Season it at the end, finish it at the end, garnish it at the end, okay? All in the moment, moments before the guest eats it. Adjusting consistency. Thick soups, especially those made with starchy vegetables or dried beans, may continue to thicken during cooking, storage, and reheating or holding. As a rule, creams and bisques are about as thick as cold heavy cream and liquid enough to pour from a ladle into a bowl. Purees are somewhat thicker. For soup that is too thin, a small amount of starch slurry may be added. Have a soup at a simmer for slow boil when the slurry is added, then consistently stir and continue to simmer for 2 to 3 minutes. All right, so this is really important. You as the person who is cooking the soup or you're serving the soup, you need to make the judgment if it's too thick or too thin. I highly recommend to get a second opinion. Say, hey chef, listen, I think this soup is too thin. Can you give me a second opinion? All right, cool. This is how much cornstarch I'm gonna use, or this is how much thickening agent I'm gonna use, whatever that is. But always get a second opinion. Do not destroy the whole batch. And then also, I wanna crush the wives' tale about putting the whole potato in the soup if it's too salty. I saw this video on TikTok and I wanted to jump through the screen, okay? If your soup is too salty, there is a way to fix it. There's 2 options. First option, take a little bit of the soup and add more liquid, but this will dilute the flavor. What I recommend doing is, if you are at home, yes, add the liquid. If you are in a restaurant and you added too much salt to the soup, throw it out and remake it. You can take a small portion of that batch if you don't want to throw it all away and remake it and then add it towards the end and then cool everything down. But I promise you, use it as a lesson and move on from it. Re-prep out the mise en place and remake the soup. Trust me, do not serve salty soup, okay? You want a perfectly seasoned soup all the time. Next, degreasing soup, unless it's intentional. I've made a golden broth before, chicken, turmeric, a little saffron. The finished dish, we added some roasted rendered chicken fat that has been clarified. It was intentional, right? So as you're eating the soup, you get that richness. It's very important to degrease your soup as you're cooking it in the first 30 minutes and also when you put it in the fridge, especially the broth-based soups. Make sure you take care of it. You are the one. Another recommendation is I highly recommend when you're sweating your vegetables, don't deep fry them, okay? You want as little oil as possible to saute these vegetables, unless you're going for super caramelized. The more I go as a chef, like I have the front of the house, I'll leave the garnishes up there if they're not like temperature, and I'll have them do that right before they hit the table or whatever the case may be. Or pouring the soup tableside I think is also key. And another thing is, soups need to be served hot, okay? Hot bowl, hot soup. All right, it's that simple. It's not up for debate, okay? And I think what's really important is when you're heating up the soup a la minute, make sure you don't scorch the bottom, but also make sure you heat it up all the way. If you don't test it or hit it with a thermometer, just make sure it's boiling all the way, all right? Now, I'm gonna show you one of my favorite soups, all right? So let's hop right in. Okay, and we are here. Hopefully you like this point of view. I just got this new GoPro, so, don't at me if it's a little off, but I think this is the best way for me to use both of my hands and also teach as I'm doing that. So this is my favorite soup, one of my favorite soups, top 3 all time, hot and sour soup, Chinese hot and sour soup, okay? And now listen, this is not 100% authentic, but I was taught how to make this, and basically over the years, as I've continued to make it, there are some things I like to add and subtract and kind of different ways I like to cook it. But the thing you will need, and of course I'll leave the recipe down below, dried shiitake, and alternatively you could have some wood ear mushrooms. But here's the thing, I love wood ear mushrooms, but what I like to do, and this is not authentic, is I like to take seaweed and dice it up like this and hydrate it. And I know that looks not appetizing, but this adds a different level of umami. And but trust me, wood ear mushroom does just fine. Scallions, eggs. Here I have heart of palm, which is non-traditional. Usually it's bamboo shoots. And I will be honest, I'm not a big fan of bamboo shoots. I've never have been, but I'll tell you what, heart of palm cut in the style of bamboo is so delicious, but it's not authentic, so don't come after me. Then also there's one other item that I'm missing, and that is the lily. But to be honest with you, I couldn't get any lily, but I do love it. You want to hydrate that just like you do with the shiitake. So I let these hydrate for about an hour, and you don't want to throw away the liquid. I like to use that liquid. Then we have ginger, garlic, carrot, and then I have pork. Usually hot and sour soup calls for lean pork. Today I'm using, this is pork shoulder that I've just cut really thin, nice pieces. Scallions, I don't know if I mentioned that. Then we have chicken broth or chicken stock, black Chinese vinegar, Chinese black vinegar, and then I have rice wine vinegar here. Okay, a little bit of soy sauce, sesame oil, and cornstarch. Then we have our cooking station here. So basically, today I'm using this wok, and we're gonna go from there. So this is my new setup. So you'll see a whole bunch of, this is my studio setup. So basically I've taken this workshop here and I've converted it, which is pretty cool. Then, honorable mention here, I wanna get this set up, so I have it, but my favorite way to have hot and sour soup, I think what the really important part is, and what I have has been a defining moment for me in the past, is the white pepper. Now, you don't have to be extra like me, but what I like to do is I like to grind it in the moment right before I season it, okay? And I think it makes a huge difference, like right in the moment. So we're gonna go ahead and get started here. The first thing we're gonna do is start warming up our wok. Let's do that. All right, turn this down. Okay, I just want this warm, just ever so gently. We're not doing anything crazy here. Okay, first things first, pork, okay, in. This goes over here. I'm gonna take a little bit of soy sauce to season, nothing crazy. Okay, cornstarch, okay. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix this up and set it aside. Actually, we'll need this later, so I'll leave it kind of. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get in here and massage this pork, and now you'll notice I make this soup a little bit differently, so for all the purists, don't come after me, because trust me, I know how everybody is. Authenticity, yeah. Anyway, let me grab another pair of gloves. I like to use gloves as I'm cooking. It just makes it a lot easier, especially because here in this workshop I only have one bathroom and it is Baghdad in there. So first things first, we are going to, now you have options here. You can leave the garlic and the ginger whole. You don't have to add it at all, to be honest. But what I like to do is season my broth right in the beginning. So let me show you how we're gonna do that. So wok is hot, a little bit of sesame oil, and then basically I'm gonna go right in with the ginger, shallots. And now listen, don't scorch this, okay? We don't want high heat here, okay? I like to just saute it ever so gently, okay? Depending on if you like sesame oil or not, you can use regular canola oil, that's fine. But I like sesame oil, especially for this application. All right, so look, we just want to knock the heat off real quick. We're not looking to caramelize this. We're not looking to do anything else except for knock the heat off. So after I've done that, and when I mean knock the heat, I'm talking about the bite, the pungent bite. All right, so that's good. We're gonna jack this up here. All right, and I'm only making it for me and my family here, so, which is also a pro tip. Save a little bit of the chicken stock, okay? And I'll show you why a little bit later. All right, so that's maximum power. Then all we're gonna do is we have our pork now, so this is gonna be the next step. And then what's really important is you have all of the other ingredients. So this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one are gonna get added. Then what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna go ahead and crack our eggs. All right, I'm using 3 eggs. You don't have to use all 3, but I'm a big fan of hot and sour soup. I'm telling you, I remember the first time I tried it. It was absolutely delicious. Chinese restaurant in Los Angeles, and it was a game changer. I mean, like I said, I usually don't order soup when I go to restaurants, but my chef friend said, "Hey, you need to try this hot and sour soup that they have," and I was like, "All right, let's do it," and it was absolutely delicious. So we'll get our eggs ready. Okay, we have everything else. Moving on. So here we have all of our mise en place ready. Now I'm guesstimating on how much for the seasoning at the end here for the soup, but for me it's I can add or subtract a little bit more. So once the soup is like pretty much up to a simmer, I'm gonna go ahead and add these chilies. Now listen, this is not authentic either. I like a little bit of bite, just a little bit, not too much. So basically I'm gonna remove these after about 5 minutes. Also, I'm gonna slide over here And listen, you can pre-ground the pepper, but I'm telling you right now, when you grind it fresh like this, it is an absolute game changer. Not water. As your chicken stock comes to a boil, I'm gonna skim a little bit. Okay, now this is a very important part here. So, all right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna drop this pork in. Now, if this was lean pork, I would do this at the end, but this is from the shoulder. So I think what's really important is to kind of have to braise it a little bit. And you wanna stir it around to separate it. And I'm gonna go ahead and dump in this whole thing because I can always add more liquid. But for me, I want to cook this down a little bit, right? So braise it, get it nice and tender. And that way it's tender and not chewy. Okay, on to the next. Back to the white pepper. So right here, we have the white pepper. And then right towards the end, I like to add a few Szechuan pepper cubes. Just a little bit. Completely optional, but I love the tingliness from the Szechuan pepper, but I don't want it to be too much. It has to be like just a small amount, you know? If it's too much, then you could ruin the dish. But anyway, here we go. Put that back while we're over here. Don't worry about my little dry storage there. All right, boom, boom. I think, hey, listen, everyone, as you're going, make sure you're cleaning up your station. Okay, that's gonna be my little trash pile. We got everything here. Beautiful. All right, so as this starts to come up to another boil, I'm not going to add any seasoning or anything. Basically, what I want to do is I want to get this to a simmer, turn it down, and let it hang out for about 10 minutes. Just to get that pork tender, okay? I think it's really important. Now, alternatively, you could use chicken breast, you could use chicken thigh, you could use pork loin, like I said before, pork tenderloin. But ultimately, I'm using pork shoulder because it's what I had on hand. I just cut out the sinew and, you know, kept it really thin, cut against the grain. All right, cool. So we've been simmering for about 10 minutes. And I just want to give this a little stir. And then what we're going to do from here is we're going to go ahead and start adding our other ingredients. So, shiitake mushroom. Okay, now I have made this before with fresh, but I'm going to be honest, the texture of the dried mushroom really makes this dish stand out. So as you can see, I'm adding, keep on adding, and then I'm going to use a little bit of this liquid for flavor. I mean, this is delicious. Don't throw this away. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add the seaweed. You could alternatively use wood-ear mushrooms. That's what the recipe calls for. But for me, I prefer to have the seaweed. I just feel like it offers a better texture, but wood-ear mushroom's great too. Next, we're going to let this stir. Get all lovey-dovey. And we're going to go in with the heart of palm. Okay, now let this cook, and I'll see you back in about 3 minutes. All right, it's been a few minutes, and everything's nice and tender. I always check one of the pieces of pork just to make sure that it's cooked. There's nothing worse than having chewy pork. But yeah, so here we go. Also, I'm going to leave the chilies in, but I'll take them out eventually. So here's why we kept the chicken stock here. You know, I would say a couple tablespoons until you get a slurry. And basically what we're going to do is make a little slurry real quick. Okay, and just set this aside. So we'll put that there. And then we'll put our seasoning agents right here, along with some soy. And I like to, listen, there's no exact measurement. You need to season to your liking, okay? So now that we're here, we're going to give this a little stir. And what we're going to do is we are going to season now, okay? As you notice, it's really important. Like, you can modify this soup to however you want, but I respect authenticity. I really do. But, you know, the thing is I have to eat this whole thing, right? So it's like, I'm going to make it how I want to make it. So here we go. A little bit of rice vinegar. Black Chinese vinegar. And soy sauce. Give that a little stir. Okay. Also, highly recommend to use light soy sauce. I'm going to hit this with a little sesame oil just to add a little bit more. And then here we go. The most important part here. Put that back. The white pepper. Okay, so as you see, we have our freshly ground white pepper. I'm going to go ahead and throw it into a sieve. And I'm going to generously sift right over. So this is that white pepper mix with the Szechuan. And I'm going for it. This really makes a huge difference. I absolutely love the taste of white pepper in here. And I think it's a really big part of the dish, to be honest. The one I had in Los Angeles was just absolutely to die for. So delicious. But it was spicy, it was sweet, it was sour. The thing is you know, sometimes people add sugar. I'm not a big fan of using direct sugar. I try to keep it out of my diet, but ultimately you're more than welcome. So we're gonna go ahead and hit it with the slurry. Super easy. All right, and I think you know, if you go slowly, you can kind of gauge if you're adding too much or too little. And I highly recommend to, you know, keep in mind you can always add, you cannot take out. So once we get here, I feel like we're at a good consistency. Then I'm gonna let that come to a boil, and we're gonna slowly add the eggs. Oh yeah, that's looking good. First off, I want to taste this. I gotta see where we're at. I have a pretty good idea. I've made this soup plenty of times, but you know, you always gotta taste. Oh my God, that's delicious. Oh my God, touch more soy sauce. Hey, and seriously, I'm not opposed to MSG either. You know, I would definitely add MSG to this. You know, is it necessary? No, you already have plenty of umami. You know, with the mushrooms and the seaweed. But I'll tell you what, I am not opposed to adding it. So here we go. We're gonna turn that down. Get rid of everything else. Okay. Boom. All right. So whenever I add egg to a soup, like egg drop soup or a good example, hot and sour soup, I always make sure it's simmering and then add slow drizzle. Slow drizzle. Yeah, and I'm gonna probably turn up the heat a little bit. I will add more liquid to this. Oh yeah. As you can see, it thickened up quite a bit. So I'm gonna add a little bit more stock to this. We're there, and I'm really happy with how this came out. And by all means, feel free to add whatever vegetables you want. You know, for me, I'm keeping it really simple today. As you know, I did not add sugar, but, oh, and use a ladle. Don't use a deli cup like me. I'm in my my workshop here. I don't have a ladle, but it's totally fine. I'm gonna get this over with. So here we have our hot and sour soup. And then basically what I'm gonna do is, carrots are completely optional, okay? Not authentic, but guess what? I didn't add any sugar, so I want the sweetness and the texture of the carrot. And then I like to hit it with a healthy portion of scallions. And boom, look at that. Beautiful. I can't wait to enjoy this soup. I'm gonna eat the whole bowl. And that's gonna do it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. All right, it's really important. It helps the YouTube algorithm. Thanks, everybody. Bye.